Hey there, everyone. We are back today with some more comics. We're talking about a weird mishmash of stuff this time. I got 5 books here, and the difference between each book is like night and day. It's stark difference between each thing. So let's start out with the continuation of last time. We've got 8 Ball. This is volume 2 of the complete 8 Ball, which is not complete. Um, so the complete 8 Ball is like issues 1 through 18 of 8 Ball. 8 Ball goes to issue 21. So the thing with it is like issues 19, 20, and 21 are like complete stories. They're not like an anthology type of thing where that the rest of 8 Ball is. So they're printed separately. It seems weird though. Like, why would you make the complete 8 Ball and not include all the issues? Strange. But anyway, 8 Ball here is the last one focused on the arc of Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron, still one of my favorite comics of all time. And this one has Ghost World. So you can see on the cover these are the Ghost World chicks. But Ghost World was a movie, right? So it became well known, and Daniel Clowes became probably well known from Ghost World. But if you were reading comics, you already knew who Daniel Clowes was. But like Ghost World, the movie, well, here's the comic. It's like always this blue, except for one issue where it's yellow by mistake, apparently. But the the comic here has things that are in the movie, but like the main arc of the movie is kind of not there. It's like movie only. So if you've only seen the movie, like you're not getting the actual Ghost World experience. It's a little bit different. Like the character Steve Buscemi is in the movie. He's not in that character is not in the book here. He's like an amalgamation of a bunch of characters and just made up wholesale for the movie. So it's a different experience, right? But 8 Ball is 8 Ball. It continues to be the same kind of stuff. Like you've got a lot of kind of like weird characters. Daniel Clowes like talking about stuff he doesn't like, or giving like a caricature of himself in different situations. That's how 8 Ball was basically, and that's how it is in here. The major arc, of course, is Ghost World, which is good. I'm trying to think of what else was. I mean, there's nothing that's really continuous. I think there's the last like Dan Pussy story in here, where it's like the death of Dan Pussy, and like no one cares about comics anymore in the future. But that's about it, though. I mean, this book is really interesting in the way that it's put together, though, because it has like each comic has like a cover in there, but like unlike a normal kind of book, like here's the cover for 8 Ball 13, but like the stock is different for the cover. It's like a thicker paper than the rest of it. So like it's actually like they took comics and just shoved them in there with a thicker cover. It's weird. It's interesting though, because like I think they matched the original print type of the original 8 Ball. It's like a really nice kind of thing, because like the first couple issues are on a totally different paper stock than the rest of them. Like it's on a more of a newsprintish kind of cheaper paper for like a part of the book, and then like it switches to the normal paper that it is for the rest, except for the covers, which are hard. It's a really interesting way of putting things together. But of course, I don't have much more to say about 8 Ball because I talked about it last video. But it's great. You should read it. Everybody should read 8 Ball. It's really good. Next, totally different route here. We've got The Fighting American. Now, The Fighting American, this comic Fighting American, not the original, is kind of a goofy parody comic. It's not like so like the main story here is like you've got these like golden age kind of superheroes, like basically just like Captain America and Bucky as different characters, and they're like they talk like corny 1950s superheroes, but they get like tricked into going into the future where they're trapped. So they're trapped in like modern day 2017, I think, when this came out. But like, so they're trapped, and they have to like deal with being these like 1950s comic stereotypes in like a totally different setting of the modern world. And it's a really good story. The Fighting American turns out to be like, this is a really good book. I saw somebody talking about this on YouTube and I thought, that sounds kind of interesting. I'll pick it up. And it's really good. There's a cool part in here where the villains who send him back will send him into the future. They go into the future at different points and they start taking over things. So like here's the scene. It's this scene right here where it's really cool because like here they're sending them into the future in groups of 2, like at different per decade. So like here, the first year that goes to like 1968, which is like 10 years in the future from I think 10 years. It's short. It's not as that far. But you can see like the villain here has like a different kind of uniform. Like he looks like a kind of a Silver Age villain. And then like he goes into, the next person goes into the 70s and then he's like turned into a kind of like 1970s superhero. He's all like groovy. And then you have like 1980s where it's like this punk rock looking superhero. It's a really cool kind of like thing that they're doing here. And then like you go into the present day and like the villain is like a woman now. It's like a trans woman and like it's really interesting. Like this whole story is like got a really good sense of humor to it. It's a really interesting story. It's not that it's a quick read. I mean, it's like I think only 4 issues, right? Let me check that. It might be 5, but I think it's only 4. But there's let's see, 1 through 4, yeah. So this is like The Fighting American is a Jack Kirby, Joe Simonson character that they like, you know, they just updated for this book, and it's really good. There's another volume of this out where the end sets up like a whole slew of new villains that show up, and it's done really well. I'd get more of these. It's good. So next we got Umbrella Academy. Umbrella Academy. Again, I saw somebody talking about this in a video, and then like I realized later on that like, oh, there's a TV show on Netflix. That's why everybody's talking about this now. But I bought it before I knew there was a TV show, and I haven't watched the TV show. I don't know. I don't have Netflix. But Umbrella Academy, it's by Gerard Way, and I like. Unlike most people, I think my introduction to Gerard Way was through comics, and then like afterwards I realized he was like a famous person beforehand. So he's like the lead singer of My Chemical Romance, but like I was introduced to him through comics, and then afterwards I knew that he was like in My Chemical Romance. Like not that I could name a single My Chemical Romance song, and I don't think I've ever heard them. I may have, but I just didn't know it, but like I couldn't tell you. But this turns out to be a really interesting comic. It sets up the story of a kind of, there's like weird births of children out throughout the world, and this kind of guy adopts the ones that he can find, and they all have kind of superpowers, and he trains them, and he's like a Victorian dad, you know, like he's distant and hateful. So you know, they all turn out a little bit messed up. Yeah. And, you know, then they have to kind of save the world. I don't want to spoil it because there is a TV show and people might be interested in it, but there are a lot of interesting characters in here. The art is really good. It reminds me of like the Hellboy art, so Mike Mignola. But you know, you've got a lot of interesting stuff going on here. It's a really nice looking book, and it was an interesting story. I mean, I know there's more. This is the first part, Apocalypse Suite, but like there's other books of this. I mean, I'd probably continue reading it. It's not bad. So Umbrella Academy was interesting, and maybe I'm interested in seeing the show. I don't know. Could be. But anyway, on to something totally different. We've got JSA, The Golden Age. Now, this is kind of like an alternate story for the Justice Society. I really liked this. This was really good. So the Golden Age story is basically like, okay, you have the Golden Age superheroes, and it kind of mimics like the comic industry. So like after World War II, superheroes became like not so popular. And they kind of fell off in favor. So it turned to things like horror comics and whatever. But like in this story, like after World War II, the heroes couldn't participate in World War II for the most part because like the Nazis had a superhero, not a superhero, but like a super being that could lock out the powers of the other superheroes. So like his superpower was like a nullification power. It just nullified the powers of the other heroes. So what happens is like a powerless superhero kind of is Mr. America, if you remember. He's like kind of, you know, he's a golden age hero. Like he's here he is. But he was in, you know, like Action Comics #1, I think. Like so, you know, he's one of the oldest DC characters. But like, you know, you have like a bunch of things where like you know, after the war, he comes back and he's like a huge hero, and then like all the other heroes have kind of fell off. They just like stop being heroes. They just go about their lives. So like here's a bunch of the pictures of them like doing things, but like it's weird because like it the story itself focuses on a lot of the minor-ish characters. So like it's less about like Golden Age Flash or something like that. It's like a character that everybody knows. The only like the most major characters I guess are Hawkman, who is minor, and Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott, who is, you know, not minor. He's like the most major character, I think, in the story. You have like, you know, because like instead of the Flash, you got Johnny Quick in there, and you've got like, you know, you've got Robot Man, the Golden Age robot, like the not quite the same kind of thing, but like, you know, the villains like Sportsmaster show up and stuff, and you're like, Sportsmaster. But you know, this is kind of, it's got the same kind of tone as like the it's not like, it's kind of like Dark Knight Returns almost, in the sense that it's like somewhat in the future, and the superheroes have given up, and they're kind of older, and they have to like figure out this kind of twist that is, I won't ruin, but like, you know, there's a good story in here where you know, you've got like Our Man is in there, if like you remember Our Man. Anyone who reads JSA will recognize a lot of these characters, I guess, but like you know, you've got like the original Manhunter and the original Starman, things like that are major characters in this. But it's interesting because like the story is like kind of a grittier look at these characters after they become superheroes. I mean, after they stop being superheroes. So like you've got like, you know, some of the character, like, you know, like she ends up in like an abusive marriage after divorcing Johnny Quick, and like, you know, a lot of them, Alan Scott gives up being Green Lantern to like run a business, and he gets like under the thumb of the like House on Un-American, wait, it's House, the HUAC, whatever it is, House of Un-American Committee or whatever. I can't think of it. I can't think of the actual term. I know what it is, but like House on Un-American Activities Committee, that's what I think it is. But you know, he's like being called in. It actually Alan Scott's story is similar to the I guess it's not, but like, you know, the same kind of thing in the Snagglepuss comic I read last time, where he's like gets called into the committee, and he's like making a speech to like shut them down. Alan Scott kind of has that arc for him. But you know, there's a twist with the characters, and like all the Golden Age heroes have to come back to fight, and they all come back, and a bunch of them die, a bunch of them like get ruined, and then like it kind of ends on a hey, here's the new heroes for the Silver Age or whatever. It's a really good story though. I really enjoy this. This one is kind of a classic, I think. But man, this story is super interesting, and it was like pretty easy to read. Like, it's a good kind of gripping story that gets you into it, and you're kind of really following it closely, and you get like it's very clear, very easy to understand, but also like really interesting, even if you don't recognize a lot of the characters. And I've always been like a fan of the JSA. I always liked the stories where it was like about the Justice Society. Um, so, I mean, it's perfect for me. But speaking of clear and easy to understand, you can still see the book in the corner there. It's still a little big, sticks out. Thinking a little big and also easy to understand. This is not. This is Dave McKean's Cages. Now, Cages, I was talking about this recently, so I decided to go through it again. But like, this is not a hero story. It's not. It's like a kind of a weird fiction story. I want to say it's done in a bunch of different art styles. I want to show like a good example of this because like there's some pages right in the beginning where you can see like the different art styles at play. So like here is like you can see this cat is drawn in a different way, and then like the cat is going through and looking in the windows, and when he looks in the windows the art style is different. It's more realistic. And then like the main art style is the kind of simpler art style like this. It looks like this, so you'll get a lot of stuff going on, but every once in a while you'll get crazier stuff going on. So you'll get you'll get things like this where it's like more rendered style, and let me see, like later on you'll get some other crazier stuff. So here, this is like photographs. It's basically like edited photographs, and then you'll have other things where it's this is collage with drawings. You'll get fully painted stuff also. That's this is still a collage. There's another section that's like painted art. Let me see if I can find that. Where's that? Jeez. Must be right at the end. Right towards the end, at least. It's like right in the same section, I think, where I feel like I'm just skipping over it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought it was going to have a different page color than the other ones like the other pages do, but it actually doesn't. So I'm going to have to like search for it manually. But like the idea of Cages here is that you've got like this kind of house where it's like an apartment building where a bunch of people are living, and they're all like kind of weird, and they're all like quirky, strange, and you'll get like a kind of connection between them through this kind of jazz musician guy who is living in the building. He makes connections with people. And you have like kind of a crazy old woman who is like waiting for her lost husband to show up, and she's been waiting for 5 years and never comes back. You've got the main character is this kind of artist who has like an artist block. He's like trying to paint a picture and he can't think of anything, and he's just like not getting any work done. There's an old guy who's a writer who has the more interesting story, I think. So like the writer is kind of trapped in the building, and he has these kind of mystery men who keep showing up and taking away the things he loves. So anything, like if he reads a book and he likes it, they'll come and take it. If he becomes attached to a pet, they'll take it. He likes a recipe, they'll destroy it. It's that kind of thing where like there's no explanation for it beyond that. Like he wrote a book that's profoundly affected people in a negative way, and he's in hiding. So like in his section of hiding, they're keeping him away, and he's trying to figure out what to do. His is a pretty interesting story where the artist guy is like meeting this woman and trying to figure things out, and you get all these kind of weird interjections of like fables and things that are they're not realistic fables. They're they're written for this. They're not ones that everybody knows. and there's kind of added story between like all these minor characters, and they all kind of eventually come together. So like here's an example of like the fables are put together in this like roughly drawn, like sketched on like napkin kind of drawings for them, and they're written that way, written like just like roughly drawn. They're not they don't feel like completely done. I wish I could find the pages where they're full color paintings. I don't know why that is so hard. It seems like it would be really easy, but this book is like 500 pages. It's and it's only like 2 or 3 pages, so just like flipping through randomly is not helping me. Oh, there they are. Found it. So like here you get. Oh, here's a good thing. So like it shows here this painted style, and then it starts to shift. So like they become slightly colored, and then they become colored, and then it's like the next page is bright colors. So it becomes this like new different kind of style. It's really interesting. Like this whole book has like this bizarre mix of styles where like everything is like different between sections, and sometimes just on different panels. Like one panel is different out of all of these. It's really interesting. So this is like more of an artistic book than a standard kind of comic book story, but it's also really interesting. Like the characters are all interesting. You get like a good kind of look at things, and there's a kind of a weird sense of sadness to the whole thing. So like reading this, I think like it's well regarded, and I totally understand why, and I'm glad to be able to read it again. So yeah, that's 5 books. That's everything I read since last video, so maybe like 2 weeks, I don't know. But yeah, I'm still working on a bunch of stuff I'm slowly working through. Like I've been working on a bunch of things that like, it's like a bunch of short stuff, and you just like read 1 or 2 at a time, and you realize that there's like hundreds of those things in the book, and you're just like, I'm never gonna finish this. I guess I could sit down and read them all, but like they're all like bite-sized, and you don't want to sit down and read them all. But whatever, that'll be it. So until next time, I don't know, enjoy some comics or whatever you enjoy. Whatever. See you guys.